Welcome to Magic Beyond the Books. Today we're talking about the Sorting Hat scene from Book 1, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone / Philosopher's Stone. I'm Callan.
And I'm Renee. Warning, there are Harry Potter spoilers in this episode. To get us started, so like Callan said, this is from the first book, Book 1, the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone, however you know it. It's going to be the first half of Chapter 7, which is called The Sorting Hat. Do you want to give us a quick summary?
Yeah, so essentially McGonagall is pulling them into the Great Hall. She kind of has them in a waiting pattern right before they go into the Great Hall. And then everybody's kind of figuring out, what's going to happen in there. And then as they get let in, they get sorted and they learn about each of the 4 houses. They hear the song for the first time. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, before we get into this scene, we're going to do our listener question of the week. So today's listener question of the week is Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, does she have special powers or is she just a regular cat?
When I was looking around for answers to this question, because I really hadn't heard this before, but once I saw it, I was thinking, maybe there could be something going on with Filch's cat. But, when I thought back to parts of the story, I didn't really think about, it never crossed my mind that Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, could be something special.
So maybe we should start with her in general. So her physical description doesn't give any indication, I think, that she's anything other than a cat. They say she's scrawny, dust-colored, lamp-like eyes, like similar to Filch's. Her movie depiction is a little bit different. She's like a Maine Coon in the movies, but just picture like a skinny gray cat, basically. That's what she's supposed to look like. That's not really weird. She does have, I guess, her behavior. Basically, she patrols Hogwarts just like Filch does, and then she reports back to him, and they seem to have a very close connection, and they seem to be able to communicate in some way.
So you say communicate in some way. I don't remember that being a, I guess, story point or plot point or something like that. Maybe people are just picking up on something like, she saw something and then Filch just ends up being there. Is that sort of where people are getting it from?
I think so. That's my understanding. It seems like multiple occurrences where, she's off on her own. She sees something weird, and then she seems to be able to summon Filch, or Filch is all of a sudden there on the scene.
Yeah, I don't know, because typically, with cats, like, it's like a one-sided relationship. I think that's sort of what we're doing, what we're looking at here. Where like Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, is just off on her own, and Filch is just like always following her, and is always seeking her attention. And Mrs. Norris is just like, get away from me! I don't want to be near anybody. Maybe that's what's going on. He just happens to be around where Mrs. Norris is all the time. It's sort of my theory that she's just a regular cat. Now it'd be funny if there was something special about her. I did see when I was looking around for answers to this that she could be part Kneazle, and that is Kneazle, and that's a magical creature that they look like cats. They can breed with cats, and then they can also live for a particularly long time.
Yeah, I did come across that with the Kneazle thing. I don't think she's supposed to. I don't think it's canon that she is half Kneazle. I know it's canon that Crookshanks is half Kneazle, which is Hermione's cat. And apparently Arabella Fig, which is Harry's neighbor, breeds Kneazle cat crossbreeds, I guess.
Okay. His neighbor?
Yeah, Arabella Fig, Mrs. Fig, that babysits him sometimes, and she's the one that finds him after the Dementor attack, and she's always described as being around a bunch of cats.
But
I guess
she breeds these magical creatures in the Muggle world?
I guess so.
It's pretty brazen.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the Kneazle theory I guess the only other thing from the books is that the cat seems to be able to sense people even if they're wearing invisibility cloaks. But I feel like that's still pretty normal because cats should be able to smell you,
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely.
There's also the theory that, that she could be an animagus, or she could be a maledictus, that's a witch or wizard who carries a blood curse that makes them slowly and involuntary turn into a beast. And then they stay that way. Like Nagini is one. So I saw some theories that Mrs. Norris could be like Filch's wife that turned into a cat and is stuck as a cat.
Oh, it
Because why
sucks.
is her name Mrs. Norris? Mrs. MRS.
I guess that is weird, Mrs. Norris, but that might just be another thing where it's like weird cat owner. Like, this
Behavior.
is my wife now. I just follow her around all day. That would suck if that was his wife and she just is now a cat. That would be terrible. But that would explain, I guess, the weird connection. I don't know. I'm still not digging the theory that she is that she's his wife. I think that she's just a cat and that Belch is just obsessed with her and is
Okay.
always nearby, and that's how he knows that stuff is going on.
I think that she's just a cat and they
Okay.
just have a very close kind of connection,
Yeah.
and that's all that it is. And she just can smell people through invisibility cloaks.
That would be
I don't
such a
think she is.
betrayal if she was an animagus and she just has lived like that for years and years and years and years. Filch is already the outcast and is sort of just not doesn't fit in and sort of just exists on the fringe of Hogwarts. But if you're Filch and everybody also already sees you as weird and not normal and just like an outcast, and then you find out that this cat has just been like disguising themselves as a cat, or this person has
This
been
person.
disguising themselves as a cat, and for all these years just letting you believe that they're a cat, that would be even a bigger slap in the face. It just feels so like so fooled and so, I don't know, even taken advantage of. Maybe that'd be terrible.
Yeah. I think for me, Animagus is ruled out because when she got petrified, I think if you were just hiding in your animal form, I feel like you would be forced into your human form and be petrified in your human form. Yeah, that's my theory at least. I think she's just a cat.
I think we can let it rest as cat. Sorry about the non exciting answer, but I think we both think that she is just a cat.
Back to the episode. Real quick, if you're a foodie and you want a little recipe to go with this episode, I have a drink for you this week that you can make. And if you want to pause the episode after this and make your little drink and then sit down and listen while you have your drink, you can do that. But basically, it's a Hogwarts houses smoothie. I got it from the official like Harry Potter recipe cooking book. Basically, what you do is you just take a third of a small pineapple, a cup of strawberries. They say 2 kiwi fruit, but I think you should get more because it doesn't really yield a lot. And a cup of blueberries. And you basically blend each of those individually and then stack them, like pour them onto each other in a cup. So since this is the first scene that we see the Sorting Hat as the audience, the first sorting that we see. So we know that the hat belonged to Godric Gryffindor, which is the starter of the Gryffindor house. And basically the 4 founders got together, spelled the hat to be able to sort students.
They imparted some sort of legitimacy onto the hat that can read a student's mind.
Yes, and apparently it contains the intelligence of the 4 founders.
So it's quite intelligent then. It's very, very intelligent. I feel like this should be used for something else then. Like put it to use some other way as well.
It's spelled for this specific task and given information for this task, and it's using legitimacy. So that's why when each student's putting it on their head, the hat seems to be quickly gaining a bunch of information, right? Because the hat stall was 5 minutes or more. That would be considered like a long sorting. So he's like or here, the hat,
It.
it is doing this really quickly. So JK Rowling, she knew that she wanted that the students to be sorted into these 4 houses, and she was trying to figure out how to do it, right? Like what would be the system?
Mm-hmm.
And her first idea was to have this elaborate machine, like sort of with all these different gears and knobs and things that kind of did a lot of movement and stuff, and then it would, spit out a name.
Yeah, that seems more like a Willy Wonka type of invention than a Harry Potter invention.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very Harry Potter too, because they kind of don't use a lot of like modern technology. Then she changed it to be 4 statues that were the 4 founders, and then they kind of came to life and sorted the students.
Okay.
So I think that seems more Harry Potter,
Yeah, definitely.
right? But she still didn't really love that idea. So then she just started writing a list of like, okay, how are people ever chosen for things like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, short straws,
Mm-hmm.
chosen by team captains, names out of a hat. And then it kind of went from names out of a hat to names out of a talking hat to putting on a hat to the sorting hat.
Okay, so I guess that makes sense, It has to be some sort of magical device. Like it can't just be like drawing things from a hat. I've never really thought about an alternative. That's how good it is, I guess. Like I never thought about, oh, why do they put on a hat? But it seems it's a very clever I guess way to get these students into each of these houses. And it seems like there was a good amount of when they're doing the sorting and the person who's sitting on the stool who's being sorted currently, can everybody else in the hall hear what the hat is saying?
No.
Yeah, okay, so that's what I was thinking, because I remember when Harry was getting sorted, he was saying not Slytherin, not Slytherin, not Slytherin, and the hat was saying, ooh, not Slytherin, and I feel like there would have been a little bit more reactivity from the rest of the Great Hall if that was the case. So I do like that it's sort of a private moment, but in the middle of the Great Hall, and there are chosen moments when everybody else can hear and when only the student can hear. Like that's what I would be thinking of the entire time I would be sorted. I'd be like, is this happening like live? Is this happening out loud?
Yeah, that's one of my qualms with the movie is I feel like the movie, I literally rewatched the scene. I feel like the movie makes it seem like the hat is saying everything out loud. I
Yeah.
wish they would have filmed it differently, like done maybe a Ratatouille style, like in the hat. Maybe you just show like hair and a hat and kind of have the sorting hat change the tone of voice and whisper during that part. So it just gives you a sense that like not everyone can hear.
You have like the 4 founders and they're all arguing with each other, arguing over the student, and then you get like Neville or whatever, and all of them are like, I don't really want him, you take him.
Well, that's interesting that you bring up Neville because I did read. So the hat apparently is very stubborn, and typically the hat gets its way, and the hat doesn't like to admit that it's wrong. So when Neville went up, he was really intimidated by Gryffindor, being all about bravery and stuff. So he told the hat that he would want to be in Hufflepuff instead. This is where the choice thing gets interesting too. So he told the hat that he wanted to be in Hufflepuff instead because he didn't feel very brave. And then him and the hat had this little argument for a while, like he was almost a hat stall. And the hat won out and put him in Gryffindor.
That would suck if I was Neville and I was like, now obviously it worked out well, but you feel sort of done dirty by the hat where it's forcing you to be put into this place where you don't necessarily really want to be put in. It worked out in the end, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think if there was any doubt, the fact that he, in the end, pulls the Gryffindor sword out of the hat and uses it to kill the snake, that only a true Gryffindor can get the sword, right?
Yeah, that's as good a sign of any that you are a Gryffindor, you're a true Gryffindor, and that you
Yeah.
are living those traits to their best extent.
I think it makes sense. You're 11 years old, you're scared, you're intimidated, and you don't feel very brave, or but I think that's where the legitimacy comes in handy. I think the hat is seeing more about you and your past and your thoughts and everything than just be thinking or feeling in that exact moment.
Yeah, and I'm sure as it's going on, like things are happening like a million miles a minute in your head, but it's like time is moving so slowly, like actual time is moving so slowly. You're just thinking, oh my gosh, what's going on? And I remember when Snape is using legitimacy on Harry when they're training, it's not the most I wonder if it's as invasive as what Snape was doing, where maybe the legitimacy is a little bit more toned back versus Snape was like actively trying to essentially like rip thoughts out of Harry's brain, at some level,
Hmm.
where maybe the Sorting Hat is just sort of trying to get a feel of what this person's character is.
Yeah. I did find a podcast. It's from the Harry Potter theory, and it's the episode's called "The Sorting Hat Theory Totally Changes Harry Potter." And their theory was that you can basically will your way into Gryffindor just by like making the choice or asking the Sorting Hat to be in Gryffindor, or like Harry does, like asking not to be in Slytherin. Like that's a mark of bravery to kind of stand up to the hat, with Neville's sorting being like a little bit of an exception. So I don't know. I guess, what are your thoughts? Do you think you can choose your house, or do you think there's a little bit more? Is it more complex? Is it simple? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I think that for the most part, I think it won't choose based on what you want it to be, because I'm sure that all of these students come in not wanting to be Slytherin unless they are from a Slytherin family. Like Slytherin has a connotation to it that's not the best, right? A lot of bad people have come from Slytherin. Not saying that bad people haven't come from other houses as well, but Slytherin just has that connotation. If the hat thinks you would be best served in Slytherin, or best, maybe it's not best served because that's not really what it's trying to do. It's not really trying to make the best choice for you as a person. It's just trying to get what you think, or what it thinks is your motivations and what you will become, I guess, or maybe trying to make a prediction. But I think for the most part, it's not going to take your opinion into it, and only on those special cases where, like, maybe the hat was like 50-50 between Gryffindor Slytherin for Harry, and it just was like, if this person is wanting very badly to be a Gryffindor, and I can't, it's a toss up, then they are probably better as a Gryffindor because that's what they desire. It's weird because you said that the Sorting Hat is stubborn and doesn't like to take the wearer's motivations or opinions into its consideration, but it does it for Harry, and Harry just seems to be special in this whole story. So maybe it can sense that he's special a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, take you, Callan, for example. Like, you by Pottermore were sorted into Gryffindor, but you feel like you're a Ravenclaw. So, like, do you think the Sorting Hat would have just put you in Gryffindor?
No, I don't. I think I probably would have been put into Ravenclaw by the Sorting Hat. Now that could be just me saying that, but I think that I fit more of the characteristics of Ravenclaw than Gryffindor. I even think I maybe fit the Hufflepuff more than Gryffindor. So I don't know. I probably would go, if I was trying to think about it, would probably be Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, and then Slytherin.
Well, let's talk about each of the houses, because I also feel like there's a lot of just people out there that like have never read Harry Potter, and or kind of have very limited exposure to Harry Potter, and I think there's a lot of assumptions made about the houses. So I just want to make sure we're clarifying like what their actual characteristics are. Like you said, like there's a lot of things about Slytherin out there. So going through the Hogwarts houses, so I think we should go from their location in the Great Hall. So if you're standing like basically where Dumbledore stands, or you're sitting at the teacher's table and you're looking out, Gryffindor, then Ravenclaw, then
I believe it's Hufflepuff.
Slytherin, then Hufflepuff.
Oh, so Hufflepuff is all the way on the right.
Yeah. So the movie has this all like backwards.
I think they have it just any which way whenever they feel like it. Like, I don't think they have it in a specific position every single time.
So going left to right, like I said, from the head table. So Gryffindor. Gryffindor, their house mascot is a lion. And their characteristics, which I took from various Sorting Hat songs, are brave at heart, daring, they have nerve and chivalry, and they're bold. So a lot of kind of repetition on the bravery front, but you also have boldness and chivalry. I think are a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely. So you know what? I actually don't know. I know the saying "chivalry is dead." I know that saying. I don't know the actual definition of chivalry, though. It is defined as the medieval knightly system with its religious, moral, and social code. So that's not something we should the ideal. So it has a lot to do with knights and noblemen, but I think the common definition is being courteous.
I have to say, and I am a Gryffindor, but
are you now? Oh.
No, I mean, I tested it. I think I feel like I'm a Gryffindor. But I have to say, I think Gryffindor is the weirdest way, I think, to sort people. Like, okay, maybe I should back up. The 4 founders, Ravenclaw says that they want to have the smartest students, which from an academic standpoint, that makes total sense, right? You test the students, they have to, abide by a certain academic rigor. This is very normal, right? Like, you have to get certain SATs to get into college. Like, okay, that makes sense. And Slytherin is, okay, we only want pure bloods. We only want people from like magical bloodline, magical families. We're not going to go whatever. It's wrong, but I kind of can like follow it a little bit. Like, if they're thinking that they don't want to like quote unquote taint the magical world, I guess like I'm not agreeing with it. I just want to make that clear. I'm saying I can follow the logic of it. And then Hufflepuff saying, oh, we'll take whoever. That also makes sense. But Gryffindor is like, we'll take the bravest. Like, the other founders had to be like, okay, how are you testing that?
We're just going to see who's going to do the craziest stuff.
Like, the Gryffindors are doing it for the plot, right? If that's what the kids are saying, right? Like, it's like, who's going to keep this interesting?
Yeah, I would think that the Gryffindor traits would sort of match up to like who is most likely to like run for student body president or stuff like that, where it's like who is more willing to put themselves out there, and try something new, be daring, be brave. But I feel like that you need a little bit more of a track record to be qualified as of a Gryffindor. But again, that's why they have the magical hat. They can sort of read the child's mind, right? But yeah, that does seem a little bit risky to put all those people in the same house. Have a lot of chefs in the kitchen that way. Yeah,
that's how like the Marauders map got created, and there was a werewolf running around in the Hogwarts grounds, right? You put too many of those type of people in one house.
A bunch of Gryffindors just trying to one up each other. That's a recipe for disaster.
Also, while we're on Gryffindor, so the Gryffindor house, their common room, is located in one of the castle towers. So is Ravenclaw. And I know this gets repeated over in the books, but I just want to make sure, just in case this is your first time to Harry Potter, they enter their house by giving a password to the fat lady, which is a portrait of a large woman in a pink dress. And once you give the password, the portrait opens, you go through the portrait hole, and then it's a cozy round room full of squashy armchairs and quote unquote lopsided tables. And they're Yeah, it doesn't seem great. And then, so that's like the common room. So you go through the portrait, you're in the common room. Then from there to go to your dormitories, there's spiral staircases.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember that from the books and the movies at least. I read that it was in one of the tallest towers as well.
Okay, okay. And the password changes at some frequency. I'm not sure how frequent, but I mean,
Whenever the
throughout the
fat lady
books,
sings, that's whenever.
I guess so. Or when they have the night for a little bit, he changes it like every day or something.
Yeah, he's extra secure.
But yeah, so that's pretty much all about Gryffindor. I don't want to go too much into. I want to hold off on talking about like the people in Gryffindor till a little bit later, until we kind of get through like identifying all the houses. If that's good with you.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fine. And the next one was what? It was Ravenclaw.
Yeah, so if we're continuing the pattern of going left to right, the second table from the left is Ravenclaw.
Yeah, Ravenclaw's traits.
They have a quote unquote ready mind. They have wit, they're clever, intelligent, same, kind of repeating on that. Gryffindor is brave, 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 brave. Ravenclaw is smart, 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 smart.
Yeah, it says intelligence, knowledge, curiosity, creativity, and wit. That's from the wiki, at least.
Okay. Yeah, from the songs too, they say interested in learning, they're sharp-minded, so just very much like to learn, intelligence, critical thinking skills, right?
Yeah. And did you mention the colors of Gryffindor? Gryffindor was scarlet and gold.
Oh yeah, I didn't mention the colors, but that's good. So scarlet and gold, and it seems like their common rooms also like have those colors as a part of it, right? So
yeah.
And then Ravenclaw, what's Ravenclaw's colors?
Blue and bronze.
Okay, blue and
which
bronze.
I have to say that those are pretty strong colors. Both of those color sets I think are the strongest of the four.
Yeah.
Blue and bronze and then scarlet and gold, those are very royal colors.
For the two houses in the two towers, right? Or there's multiple towers, but they're of the four, the two of them have live in towers, right?
Yeah.
That I do have to get on a soapbox for Ravenclaw. I'm not a Ravenclaw, but I want to fight for y'all because, okay, I'm going to say this clearly for the people in the back. Ravenclaw's mascot is an eagle. It's always been an eagle. It always will be an eagle. It never was a raven. People just took it from the name, which doesn't make sense because Gryffindor is a lion and you don't see like Griffin merch for them. It's like almost impossible to find merchandise in the real world that doesn't have a raven on Ravenclaw stuff. If you're someone and you're listening and you sell book appropriate Harry Potter merchandise, like leave your link in the comments. We'll help try to get your name out there because this injustice needs to be stopped.
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's always been an eagle, people.
Always has been, always will be.
Always will be.
But getting on, we're going to step down from the soapbox to tell you, do you want to hear about their common room?
Yes.
So, like I said, it's in one of the towers. You climb up a tight spiral staircase just to get to their common room. And once you get up that tight spiral staircase, there's a door, and it's just the piece of wood. There's no handle, no keyhole. There's just a bronze. Again, bronze is one of their colors. A bronze knocker in the shape of an eagle. I'm emphasizing the words that are important here. Bronze eagle. And you knock once, and then the beak of the eagle opens and says like some sort of, I guess you call it a riddle, a question in a musical voice. And then you need to answer correctly to enter into your common room.
Yeah, that's sort of the differentiator between Ravenclaw common room and other ones, right? Because Ravenclaw's common room, you have to answer the riddle. Gryffindor is a password. I don't know what the other two are, but there has to be some sort of guard, right? But apparently the Ravenclaw common room is sort of the only one that like anybody can get in, but obviously you would hope that the riddles are designed well enough to where only a Ravenclaw would be able to decode it and solve it.
Yeah, and it seems like the questions are very much about using your critical thinking skills. So, like an example of a question was, which came first, the phoenix or the flame? Do you want to try to answer that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. I feel like it's a trick question somewhat. But it's like you probably have to answer it in a very like specific way. I'm gonna say both, but I don't know how to answer it.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track with that. Or that's pretty. Luna, the way she answered it was basically a circle doesn't have a beginning, right?
Yeah, something like that, where it's like it's an answer, but it's like a non-answer as well, and that's sort of how you have to get around it.
Yeah. And their common room, I am kind of jealous of Ravenclaws in this sense because their common room seems very nice. So it's supposed to be a wide, all the rooms seem to be circular except for Slytherin. So it's a wide circular room that's very airy. They have arched windows. The walls are hung with blue and bronze silks. And they have this great view of the surrounding mountains out of those windows. And it's kind of like this dome ceiling, and that's painted with stars. And they have midnight blue carpet and tables and chairs, and of course, bookcases, and then a marble statue of Rowena Ravenclaw.
Yeah, it seems sick.
Yeah, it seems beautiful, and you have a beautiful view, and just like this is probably in my opinion, I think this is the coolest looking common room based on the description.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. The other ones sound a little bit. I mean, maybe the Gryffindor one sounds a little bit more homey. The Hufflepuff one, we'll get to that, sounds very comfortable. The Slytherin one sounds like bleak, to be honest.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah. But yeah, this one seems like the coolest one to be a part of.
Yeah. Did you have anything else for Ravenclaw?
I was gonna actually mention their ghosts, each house ghosts. So like for Gryffindor, it was Nearly Headless Nick. Then obviously for Ravenclaw, it's the Grey Lady or Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter, right?
Her name's Helena Ravenclaw.
Interesting connection between the ghosts of Ravenclaw and the ghost of Slytherin that we've mentioned in a previous episode, but I'll mention it again. Apparently, Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter, was sort of desired, or the Bloody Baron, who is the ghost of the Slytherin house, he fancied her, he was attracted to her, and he tried to go court her after she ran away or something like that. And then after he was sort of denied that courtship, or Helena sort of told him to get lost, he had a fit of rage and he killed Helena Ravenclaw. And then after he killed Helena Ravenclaw, he committed suicide. So that's how both of those ghosts came to be.
I guess it's pretty clear why the Bloody Baron isn't the ghost of Gryffindor, right? That's not very chivalrous.
No, not very chivalrous at all. That's probably the least chivalrous thing to do, is kill a woman.
Yeah. On the scale of chivalry, that's going to be the lowest, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially and killing a man, slightly more chivalrous than killing a woman. I'm
gonna go out on a limb here and say killing a man is actually like pretty high on the chivalrous, right?
Yeah, maybe a man that's annoying a woman is pretty high on the chivalry scale.
Yeah, but yeah, so Slytherin is the second table from the right, and what are their colors?
Green and silver.
Okay, so this is where the silver comes in. Silver is not associated with Ravenclaw; it's associated with Slytherin.
I don't know why it becomes associated with Ravenclaw. Again, it just seems like a mess over there in the merch department for Harry Potter.
So Slytherin, their house mascot is a snake, which is even more clear by the basilisk being, Salazar Slytherin's little pet there in the chamber.
Giant snake, yeah.
And their characteristics from the Sorting Hat songs are that they're cunning, they're quote unquote willing to do whatever it takes to win, and they have great ambition and quote unquote pure ancestry, a pure blood wizarded family.
Yeah, the traits are ambition, leadership, self-preservation, cunning, and resourcefulness. That's what I got from the wiki. And going back to the sorting discussion, Harry doesn't exhibit the ambition as much, but I think he maybe not self-preservation either. I don't know where the Sorting Hat is getting this from. Definitely getting a lot more of the leadership the cunning and the resourcefulness parts from Harry. So maybe that's sort of the breaking point, was Harry didn't exhibit all of the traits of what you would think a traditional Slytherin house member would exhibit. So it took his desire into its choice that it made for him.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could argue that Harry shows ambition in certain ways, like let's say in Quidditch, for example, or a desire to kind of live up to his name to some extent, maybe. But also, I don't know. I mean, I guess a case could definitely be made that the Sorting Hat was seeing the Horcrux traits in him, maybe.
Oh yeah, maybe saw a little bit of didn't really know what it was seeing, probably, because that's probably the first time it's had a Horcrux on its stool. But maybe that was influencing it a little bit, and that's why it had a lot of the Slytherin feelings in its mind.
Like you said before, talking about bleak for Slytherin, their common room is in the dungeons underneath the lake. So apparently it gives it kind of like this greenish hue. When you get to their common room, it's just a bare stretch of damp stone wall. And once you give the password, the door appears.
That just seems terrible. Like, that just seems like they're roughing it for 7 years. There's no comfort that they get to experience. So that's why they become so resourceful or cunning, is they're just like they're living in the worst conditions. So they become hard, and that doesn't seem like a very nurturing kind of place to be learning.
Yeah, this is not a good environment for children.
No.
It's a long
under a lake.
Yes, it's a long, low underground room with stone walls, and apparently there's round greenish lamps hanging from chains on the ceiling. And they do have an elaborately carved fireplace and high-backed chairs, which kind of gives more of the like elitist vibe, but everything else seems very bleak.
Yeah, it has a greenish hue. That doesn't seem very clean. That's like, green is the color of like goo and like muck. That's sort of what I think of when I think of like a greenish hue.
Yeah, the whole thing seems very cold and not very warm at all.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Like, it has to be cold in there. Like, it can't be very warm. The only source of warmth is coming from that fire. There's no sunlight, there's no nothing. And God forbid being warm to your fellow students, like, emotionally. That doesn't seem like there's much going on in that common room either. Everybody's cutthroat in that common room.
Yeah, and when they go there with Malfoy, he uses the password pureblood. I'm not sure if that's always supposed to be the password, or if the password's always somehow associated with like the casual racism thing. But
yeah.
So yeah, it just doesn't seem very great there. But on the flip side, Hufflepuff seems great.
Yeah, Hufflepuff seems awesome. Hufflepuff seems like, if I was power ranking these common rooms or places I would want to sort of live out my days as a student, I would choose maybe Ravenclaw, then Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Slytherin. Same ranking as my as what I think my houses would be, because the Hufflepuff is like right next to the kitchen. It seems very cozy. It seems very welcoming.
Yeah.
Seems just nice and like I said, nurturing. The antithesis of what Slytherin seems like.
Yeah. So Hufflepuff is a table, as far as the Great Hall, they're the table on the far right. And their ghost is the Fat Friar, which he seems like just a friendly guy.
Do you know how he became a ghost?
No.
So he was executed because he was like doing too much sleight of hand, like magic, like in front of Muggles, and they got suspicious of him, and then they executed him. Which kind of sucks, because he was just trying to like have some fun with everybody, and then he got offed because they were scared of him. But yeah, he just seems like a happy, fun-loving guy.
Yeah, he seems great. And what are their colors?
Yellow and black.
Okay. Their house mascot is a badger. I did see that originally JK Rowling was going to have their house mascot be a bear, actually.
Okay, I could see that too. A teddy bear. That's the word I'm thinking of. Sort of like a teddy bear, very nurturing, very cozy.
And their house characteristics, so they're just, loyal, patient, true, hard workers, unafraid of toil, the Sorting Hat said,
What's
and
toil?
struggles,
Ah,
problems,
okay.
challenges, whatever.
So it's like a Kuna Matata.
Yeah, and they're said to be the people that don't fit in any other house. Like, Hufflepuff will take them all. Anyone who doesn't fit anywhere else. I feel like Hufflepuff gets a bad rap. Like they're
The
the land of misfit
castaways.
toys.
Yeah.
But I feel like Hufflepuff doesn't seem like a bad house. I mean, if I'm ranking my houses, I think I'm a Gryffindor, and then Slytherin or Hufflepuff are probably my like 2 and 3, and then Ravenclaw is the bottom. Though I'd love to live in the Ravenclaw common room.
Why do you say you're Ravenclaw last?
Well, one, I'm not very smart. Maybe we should just put that out there. And then I'm also not very interested in learning. So it's just
Okay, I guess those are two pretty big nails in the coffin right there. So
That's what
I won't inquire any further. Yeah, the Hufflepuffs, they just seem like a good group. Like they just seem like they're a bunch of solid people. Like they're not trying to be brave all the time. They're not trying to like go above and beyond all the time. They're not going to cut your throat trying to get ahead in the world. They're not a know-it-all. They're not overly asking why is this, what's going on here, blah 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 blah. They just seem like a happy, fun-loving group. I think that those people are pretty identifiable, in the regular world. Like they're well-rounded, and they're hard workers. They're not like, they seem like sort of like the jack of all trades, maybe.
Yeah, and I think, like being patient, being loyal, those are hard traits to come by,
Oh yeah.
right? So it's not like, I don't know. I don't think of Hufflepuff as being just the throwaway bag kind of. I think they have their own identity.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I value everything that they have of in traits. Those are things you value in a person. Like those are the people that you want around you, really.
Yeah. So Hufflepuff, this is the only common room that Harry does not visit. I saw that JK Rowling originally intended for him to visit all of the common rooms throughout the series, but it just, it got to a point where she realized like there was no like way that it was going to work out that he would go there. But she still, had a vision in her head for what the common room looked like. Like you said earlier, so the Hufflepuff common room is right next to the kitchens. And there's a pile of large barrels stacked in this little shadowy corner and of one of the corridors. The second barrel from the bottom, middle of the second row, it'll open if it's tapped to the rhythm of Helga Hufflepuff.
Okay, like her name?
I guess so. I'm not really sure. So their entrance is basically just a rhythmic, tapping.
Yeah. It's just all vibes.
Yeah, it's just all vibes. But the key is if you tap the wrong number of times or the wrong barrel, then one of the other lids will open and it'll drench you in vinegar.
Ugh. Gross. I hate the smell of vinegar. I can't even eat vinegar like chips, like the salt and vinegar chips. Can't do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, just a tablespoon of vinegar is so overpowering. I can't imagine being drenched in it.
Yeah.
Once you do the tapping and then the lid will open and you go in, and it's a sloping earthy passage inside the barrel, and that it goes upwards, and then you get into this cozy round low ceilinged room, and it's supposed to be kind of like a badger's set, SETT.
Like it's home.
And yeah, and the room is decorated with cheerful yellow and black. And there's a highly polished honey colored wood that's used for the tables and the round doors to the dormitories. And then they have a bunch, like in their dormitories, they have patchwork quilts on the bed, and just there's a lot of plants and flowers. And in the common room, small round windows you can see out, but it's level with the ground. So it's bringing in some sunlight, and you can kind of see like the grass. You might see like people's feet walking by.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So
Um,
this very much makes me think of Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings, right?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I found this in kind of those articles from JK Rowling on harrypotter.com. And then on Hogwarts Legacy, depending on that video game, depending on what house you make your student, you can go see their, they have very what seems to be true to the book's common rooms in Hogwarts Legacy, the game. And so they have a little like the barrel situation that you do the taps and everything. So as far as the sorting in this scene, we don't get every single student in his year being sorted. Um but basically, the hat goes through. So I tried to go through the books and find all the people from Harry's year that are in the books and what house they're in. So I can give you the list. I believe I got everyone that is in his year that makes an appearance in the book some way, somehow. The sorting hat sorts the following people into Gryffindor in his year. So the boys are Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, Dean Thomas, who originally his name was Gary.
What? I did not know that.
Yeah, not in the books, but
Oh.
before, when JK Rowling was naming people,
Oh, okay.
she originally,
That would have been so funny if in the book it was like Gary and then changed the name to Dean.
yeah, she originally had him as Gary, and he was originally going to have more of a role. And like when they go with Neville and they find Fluffy, he was also going to be there.
Okay.
So, but then his role got kind of dialed back, and I think like Neville's role got dialed up a little bit. But so Dean Thomas, and then Neville Longbottom, who his original last name was either going to be Sidebottom or Puff. Why all the bottoms? I'm not sure.
But why Puff? Like that's completely out of the world,
Yeah, maybe like a reference to the fact that he was almost a Hufflepuff, right?
Oh, maybe
that's
a good point. Yeah.
And Seamus Finnegan.
Okay.
Of those boys, Seamus and Neville were two that apparently the hat took a long time with them deciding.
Okay.
And Ron is the one that ends up being the boy prefect for their house when they get to 5th year.
Yeah. Yeah. Which still seems sort of an odd choice. I don't know why Ron is picked as the prefect.
Yeah. I actually think a case could be made for Neville being better choice.
Yeah, that would be my pick as well.
I don't know why it was like it's like it was between Harry and Ron. I'm like, what about the other 3?
Yeah. There's other contenders here.
And then for the girls in Gryffindor, it's Hermione Granger, who she also ends up being the prefect. And also the hat took a long time sorting her and considered between Ravenclaw. And her original last name was going to be Puckle. Like
I don't know why all of these other names sound so funny, but they do. I'm sure that but Granger doesn't seem like that crazy of a name. Puckle just seems weird. It seems a little like fairy tale-ish,
Yeah, I can see it. I like Granger. Okay, so Hermione, Lavender Brown, and Parvati Patil, which Parvati Patil is a twin, and her identical twin went into another house, which I think is so odd.
They might not be so identical, I guess.
Yeah. So that's all of the people that we know in Gryffindor from this year.
Okay.
Okay. Then Ravenclaw, for the boys, we have Terry Boot, Anthony Goldstein, and Michael Corner. And Anthony Goldstein is the one that ends up being a prefect. And then for the girls, we have Mandy Brocklehurst, Padma Patil, which is the twin of Parvati, Lisa Turpin, and Morag McDougal. And Padma, the twin, she ends up being a prefect. So this is even weirder. One of the twins gets prefect and the other doesn't, which I feel like that would cause so much tension, right?
Yeah, definitely in the Patel household, they're gonna be comparing Padma with Parvati immediately. Like, why didn't you get this? You know, it's just
Yes.
the identical. It definitely hurts though, because also Padma gets sorted into Ravenclaw, and that's like the smarty pants house, and then Gryffindor. Parvati gets put into Gryffindor, and then also she doesn't get to be the prefect. So like it's just double jeopardy with her.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're both in Dumbledore's army breaking the rules, but
Yeah.
I feel like that must be really tough. And then for their years, so Slytherin, the boys are Draco Malfoy, which apparently took no time, like the hat barely touched his head, and he becomes prefect. And then you have Vincent Crabbe, Gregory Goyle, Blaise Zabini, and Theodore Knott.
I like to think that Draco's took so fast because it was like one pure evil, but also the hat was like, oh, get me off of this, get me off, get me off, get me off. Like I just need to get out of here. Like he was
Yeah.
being burned or something.
I feel like Draco was like, not only did he want to be in Slytherin, but I think he's like, my family will disown me if I'm not in Slytherin. I
Yeah.
need to be in Slytherin.
Yeah, probably.
And then for the girls in Slytherin, we have Millicent Bulstrode, Pansy Parkinson, who Pansy becomes the prefect, and then Daphne Greengrass. And then for Hufflepuff, we have boys, which are Justin Finch Fletchley and Ernie McMillan, and Ernie becomes prefect. And then for the girls, we have Hannah Abbott, who becomes a prefect, and she marries Neville. And then Susan Bones.
Okay. And so
And
these
then
are
there's
only the people that are mentioned.
Yes. And there's also Lily Moon, or Moon is mentioned. Could be a Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, or Slytherin, unclear. And then Sally Ann Perks is also mentioned and could be a Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, or Slytherin. So those two are maybe somewhere in there. But this is just the people that are mentioned. So there are definitely more people in his house. It's just we don't get like names for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I looked this up previously, about how many like students are actually at the school. I looked this up when we were talking about Quidditch. What we were talking about with Quidditch.
Yeah, like thinking about how many people are in the house. But I actually found something that's going to blow your mind, Calvin.
Okay, go for it.
So I went back. I found on HarryPotter.com, you can go to original articles by JK Rowling that are like supporting articles for the canon of the story.
Uh-huh.
She published a list from one of her original notebooks that's called The Original 40. And it's a list of 40 names that are 40 of the students in Harry's year.
Okay.
Okay. Keyword 40 of the students. While I imagine that there would be considerably more than 40 students in each year at Hogwarts, I thought it would be useful to know a proportion of Harry's classmates and have names at my fingertips, etc., etc. So she says here that there are more than 40 students in each year. So I think that all this stuff, all these people's articles and things about like, oh, there's about 5 and 5 boys, 5 girls, about 10 in each house in each year. I think that's off. I think there's way more people at Hogwarts.
Like just the logistics of it. Like think about how many people there are in England, right? Like there's like millions of people in England. I don't know the rate at which there's like wizards, but there seems to be a lot of wizards and witches out there as well. So yeah, it just seems like there has to be more than 10 per house, 10 per class, and then like 70 per house, there has to be more than that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does call into question other things, though. Like, okay, so Quidditch teams, they seem proportionally very small, right? If they have
Yeah.
so many more students. So I don't know.
Yeah, you would want there to be backups, right? But I guess not, you know.
I guess not. It's very hard to play Quidditch at
Yeah.
Hogwarts.
Yeah, it's a very exclusive club. You have to be really good, I guess.
Even if you're not on the Quidditch team, though, everyone in the house, a big other point of the houses is that they're earning points for their house. And that goes throughout all the books. And, you know, and McGonagall says it in this scene when before they even get sorted, she explains that basically any good things that you do, you get house points. If you break rules, you lose house points. And then in the entrance hall, there's these giant hourglasses kind of in little like holes in the wall. And those track constantly the points going up and down, you know, and they have like there's emeralds for Slytherin and, you know, jewels that are the color of that house. So you can always kind of see where you're standing throughout the year. And then once it gets to the end of the year, whoever has the most, they win the house cup.
Yeah. And it has to be so demoralizing to be in Harry Potter's year or be in Gryffindor whenever Harry Potter's there, because it's like you wake up one day and you have like lost, you know, 5,000 points or whatever because they were fighting a troll, or like they went out of their beds at night or whatever, you know. So and then you know that Snape is just looking for an excuse to take points away. So you have to be sort of on the edge of your seat, you know, every morning. You wake up for breakfast and you're like, oh God, what do we got to do today? You know, what do we have to do to make up for today?
Yeah, I did try to write down examples from the books of what lost points and gained points. Do you want to hear some?
Yeah, go for it.
So, examples of things that lost house points. Wandering the school at night past curfew. Makes sense. Fighting. Trying to take on a mountain troll solo. Insulting a prefect. Doing magic in the corridors. Helping another student with their potion during class. Arriving late to class. Speaking out of turn during class. Throwing things at another student during class. Dressing as a Dementor in an attempt to scare another student during a Quidditch match. Hooking up in the rose bushes during the Yule Ball was a big no-no. Talking during class, like chit-chatting, and reading magazines during class, and yelling in the Great Hall.
Oh, reading magazines. I feel like that would be like a exclusive, like very no-no, you know, like a magazine that sort of seems like it's a muggle sort of thing. I feel like it would be very looked down upon if there was like a muggle paraphernalia in Hogwarts, you know?
In the magical world. And then things that gained house points, answering questions correctly in class, that's a big one. Successfully knocking out a mountain troll. That's just to clarify.
Yeah.
Trying to take on one on your own, lose.
Yeah.
Successfully take one on your own, gain points.
It's a big risk reward with the troll.
Yeah. Successfully like completing spells that you practice in class, you know, doing those well, that gives you points. Winning a chess match gives points, or solving a potion riddle, fighting Voldemort / Quirrell. And then here's a big one: standing up to your friends.
That seems like a big risk reward one as well.
Yeah. Saving Ginny from the Basilisk in the Chamber of Secrets, and fighting the Death Eaters of the Ministry of Magic. These are all things that gain you points.
So those last two, those have to be pretty big money makers at that point, because like fighting a basilisk, like nobody's ever done that before. That's unprecedented. Like, I wonder what the conversation was. Like, Snape was like, okay, like I could see maybe like 20 points. Let's give him like 20 points or whatever. But like in reality, I don't know. Do you know how much a winning point total? Like, I remember we were talking about Quidditch that they get like 100 something points from winning the Quidditch thing. I don't know.
Oh, do they? I'm not sure. I did look at the end of the year. It seems like all the houses land around 300 to 400 points.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, yeah, because at the end there was something at the end of book one. Dumbledore just like starts to willy nilly start to hand out points, right? So I don't know. I mean, it seems like he was looking for something that was like going to get him over the hump, So like maybe he was
Yeah.
just handing out like however hundreds of points at a
I
time.
think it seems like big things give you like maybe 50 points.
Okay, yeah,
And then little things like if you answer a question right in class, it's like 1 point to Gryffindor. And
yeah.
then things in between might be like a 10 points here and there.
I'm seeing like 5 points, 5 points, 5 points in my when I'm searching.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, it seems like that's a pretty standard amount. I'm seeing like 20, 50.
Yeah, so like I think at one point Harry might, when they were all out past curfew and stuff, I think they lost 100 points and that was a really big loss. So I don't think there's any win or loss more than like 100.
So I'm actually looking at the ending of Philosopher's Stone. So at the end, he gives Dumbledore gives 50 to Ron for playing the best chess he's ever seen. I guess the
Okay.
best game of chess he's ever seen. He gives 50 to Hermione for cool logic in the face of danger, or in the face of fire, which I'm assuming is the
The
little
potions.
potions riddle thing. Then he gives 60 to Harry for pure nerve and outstanding courage. And then he gives Neville 10 points for standing up to your friends, I guess.
10
Yeah,
points.
10 points. So he gave him 10 points just to get him over the hump. But yeah, so it seems like an outrageous amount of points would be like 100 points. That's like an unheard of amount. Like that, I would assume that fighting a basilisk would get you 100 points.
Well, Harry took on Voldemort/Quirrell and he got 60. I mean,
Yeah,
what does it take to get 100 points?
yeah, but those Gryffindors, they just try to keep one upping themselves. So I guess Dumbledore he's knowing that they're gonna be doing something later on in the year or the years to come. So maybe he's like, I gotta give them some room to grow or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's like house adjusted, right? So if a Ravenclaw gets a question right in class, maybe
Yeah,
it's not worth as many
half a
points, but
point.
yeah,
Zero.
but
You, you know what, Ravenclaw, you get 0 points for getting. This is just if you don't get it right, you get minus points.
yes, exactly. But then for doing these crazy acts of bravery, Gryffindor is like, okay, you
Yeah,
only get so many points here.
yeah. Like I'm trying to think of like a Slytherin, like holding the door open for another student. You get 10 points because they'll never do that.
But yeah, but that's essentially, I know we jumped all around, but I mean, this scene, you're getting introduced to the ghosts, you're getting introduced to the houses, they do the sorting, they do, the little speech, and then they kind of join their tables. And that's, I mean,
Yeah,
we get our first sorting hat song, we get our first introduction into that. So that's really the big thing.
yeah. It's relatively a simple scene, right? Obviously, they're the big moment is when Harry gets sorted, and then they kind of like just jump through the rest of them, right? So we kind of just wanted to expound a little bit and just kind of talk more about what all the houses mean and or that sort of stuff. But I believe we have
Yeah.
some other questions, right?
So a listener question we got was, why wasn't Hermione sorted into Ravenclaw?
I did see something on the wiki that it was another one of those things where because she was a hat stall, or maybe she was a near hat stall, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a point in time where the sorting hat was like, I don't know what to do with this, and then the deciding point was Hermione. I think she wanted to be a Gryffindor, and maybe even the hat could see that because she was valuing bravery and courage even more than like maybe her other peers that might have already been sorted into Ravenclaw. That's why he eventually made that decision, or it made that decision.
I I think that makes sense. I mean, I think I see there's a lot of traits of bravery with Hermione, and she maybe doesn't do the most quote unquote logical thing all the time to do something brave instead, right? Just because you're intelligent and you read a lot doesn't mean you're a Ravenclaw.
No, definitely not.
Okay, another listener question we got was, if Ron and Draco weren't defaults due to family ties, what house would they get sorted into? And they said they think that Ron would actually be a Slytherin.
Okay, so I thought this was interesting when I saw this comment. I definitely think Draco is a Slytherin. I think he fits that bill pretty easily. I don't think he's escaping his family's heritage when it comes to his house. But as far as Ron, I don't think he's a Hufflepuff. I don't think he's a Ravenclaw. So that only leaves Slytherin and Gryffindor. So what do you think?
I personally think that Ron would fit into Hufflepuff. I think Ron's like defining characteristic is his loyalty. And so if I were putting him anywhere else, I'd put him in Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I was thinking more about like the hard work trait that goes along with Hufflepuff. He seems sort of lazy, but he sort of gains maybe a little bit more work ethic as he grows into his own. But yeah, I definitely could see the loyalty though, because he's definitely a loyal guy, and he seems like he is, when that loyalty is broken, like when he perceives it to be broken by Harry in the Goblet of Fire, he's very hurt by that. So yeah, I could see Hufflepuff a little bit more. I definitely don't see Slytherin though, because he definitely doesn't seem like he wants to be a leader, or he wants to what are the other ones the other traits that I wrote down? Like ambition. I don't think he has a lot of ambition. And sorry, Ron, I don't think you're very cunning or resourceful either. So I don't see Slytherin. So maybe I could see Hufflepuff now that you've sort of convinced me.
I mean, the only thing I'll say about Draco, because that was the other point in this, I do think that so let's take out the family part. I think he's a Slytherin because he is very ambitious. I mean, he joins up the Death Eaters very young, and he takes on the massive task of trying to kill Dumbledore, and just jumps in and he's like, I am going to do this. Even though no one believes me, I'm going to figure out a way.
Yeah, that is very cunning and resourceful. Like he
yeah.
I don't know who was, maybe there was nobody helping him. And I'm just going to assume there's nobody helping him, because that seems like a very clever way. Now, obviously it's not a good thing that he attempted to kill Dumbledore, but that's a very clever way of doing it, of accomplishing that goal. Like if they were like, I bet you they were like, look, just figure out a way to get us into the castle, and that's your job. And then he figured it out. He did it, like that's pretty good.
If we're doing the like tracking the Elder Wand, right? Like he gets the Elder Wand from Dumbledore. Like he gets the best of Dumbledore. We don't see anyone get the best of Dumbledore except for Draco, right? Like even his death was planned with Severus. Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of ambition there. So I can't really see him anywhere else. I mean, maybe Ravenclaw, because he does seem to have like a high intelligence with some of the scheming, right? But also things like he seems to have a lot of skill in potions, and he's in the NEWT level of potions. So, he seems to be a more skilled wizard in general. So maybe Ravenclaw, if not Slytherin, but I do believe,
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be just like this, what's the word for like, he doesn't seem to be like some sort of like nepotism thing where like, because his family is so well off that he is sort of given this credit of being a more talented wizard. He seems to be a good wizard in his own right. So yeah, I will say I'll push back a little bit on the Dumbledore thing. I don't think that he got the best of Dumbledore, because Dumbledore was, one, in a weakened state, and then two, I don't necessarily know if Dumbledore was planning on letting Draco get the Elder Wand at some point because he knew that Draco was going to try and kill him. I don't know. I think maybe that was maybe a happy accident that Draco um, became the master of the Elder One, but who knows? But yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's a good wizard. He's a talented potions maker.
Yeah. I guess my thing with and maybe we can get into it in another episode, but my thing with Draco, it's not just that he does Expelliarmus and he gets the wand from Dumbledore. It's my belief that it's more than that because Dumbledore genuinely doesn't know how he did all of his plans. Like he does know about his failed attempts, but he didn't realize that Rosmerta was under the Imperius curse. He also didn't like figure out how he was getting Death Eaters into the castle and told him like, oh, that was like a good like way to work around all of the things. So that's where I think I'm saying like he genuinely caught him off guard with some of his plans that even Dumbledore didn't have figured out.
Okay, yeah.
I feel like
I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Okay. As far as other discussion questions, another thing that I found was so the Super Carlins brothers did an episode that's called Harry Potter: The Wild Mystery of the Sorting Hat Stool. And they have this whole thing where apparently the sorting hat, the stool that they sit on to be sorted, in some books, the stool has 3 legs, and in some it has 4. And they had this crazy theory about how like it's 4 legs for the 4 founders, and then there's literally a lyric from the Sorting Hat song that says when the like 4 was whittled down to 3 because Slytherin kind of breaks off and leaves, like that's supposed to be a metaphor for the stool only having 3 legs.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
You know, and especially using the term whittled, right? Like you would whittle wood, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
I don't know about that one, but just throwing that theory out there.
No, I saw that theory as well. You know, again, like our comments on Mrs. Norris, I don't think that this is going to be as flashy an answer as people would like, but I think that it just was like an error in editing.
Yeah. Or they're just grabbing whatever random stool.
Yeah. You know what? I actually
year.
like that a little bit better. Like the stool doesn't matter. Just like grab a stool. Like it's just whatever. That seems like actually the most like simple explanation. But obviously, you know, when somebody's writing a book, I feel like they would probably put a little bit more thought into the words they put in there. So hopefully that is the reason that like it was just a slight mistake or whatever. But I do like that idea where it's just like just grab a stool. Like it doesn't matter at all. You know, it's just the hat. The hat is the magic part.
The only argument I can see for that there is some symbolism there is why even mention how many legs if it doesn't mean something, right? Like why don't you just say a stool? Like grabbed a stool, they sat on a stool. Why say like 4-legged stool, 3-legged stool? So maybe there's something there. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you, the listener, to decide. So as far as the illustrated books, they do have a good picture, and I was trying to find what this sorting hat looks like. So the illustrated books and the way it's described is a patchwork hat and very old and everything. So I'll share it on our Instagram. I like the way they kind of have it where it's fully like patchwork, like a kind of quilt, but not perfectly lined and everything. And then it has a feather coming out. And it's very different from how it's pictured in the movies.
Yeah, the movies, it seems like it looks like it's one piece. It's just some sort of hat that he had, and they just sort of turned it into this magical thing. But where did he find this thing?
I feel like it makes more sense that maybe it was one color, and then I mean this is like hundreds of years, so wouldn't it have rip and have to be patched up?
Yeah.
And maybe they're just taking random fabrics because it's a complicated design. Yeah, but I have found other illustrations that are more closer to kind of the way the movies have it, where it's just all one color and there's just kind of a rip.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did find JK Rowling had some original illustrations in her notes
Okay.
that Yeah, it looks like the book one, but with a couple random fabric patches, not like the whole thing is
Yeah.
patched.
I mean, maybe that's just the beginning. That's the first iteration. You know that they had to patch it up a little bit more. But you said so the illustration that has all the patches, that's from the illustrated version of the book.
Hmm.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would assume
Jim
that they had
K's.
to pass some sort of sniff test with somebody who's making sure it's canon.
The illustrated books are Jim K did the illustrations, and it's with
Yeah,
JK, like she's on the book and everything, and like was a part of the process.
yeah,
And I know there's only the first five, and I know they're making 6 and 7 that are supposed to come out, I think 2026 with a different illustrator. So we'll see how those ones come out. But I think it's all being done with JK Rowling's involvement. So I kind of take the illustrated as canon, though it's kind of sometimes it's a little bit different. So maybe canon with a little bit of loose interpretation.
yeah. That's what we like a little bit.
Yeah.
Keep the people guessing. All right, so that sort of wraps it up for everything we have for the Sorting Hat scene. So, like we said, we gave you a little bit of everything with that scene, not just the wrap up. So, hopefully, you enjoyed that. Thanks for joining us on this magical journey through the wizarding world of Harry Potter. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. Next week, we'll be discussing Professor Flitwick. Until then, happy reading, happy listening, and in darkness, may you always find the light.